Welcome to the Startup Grind.
8 years ago this month, in February of 2010, in the founder's garage in Silicon Valley, California, for one reason. They were out in the entrepreneurship universe. They couldn't find the education, the inspiration, or the connections to help them grow their businesses. So they decided to do what entrepreneurs do, started doing it themselves. The rest, as they say, is history. I'm thrilled to be able to have someone that I heard for the first time last October at the TEDCO Entrepreneurship Expo that was downtown Baltimore. He was a featured speaker, and he presented his journey through entrepreneurship in ways that I have never heard somebody give it before. It was incredibly powerful, incredibly insightful, incredibly educational. And I said, somehow, some way, I've got to have that guy here at our local chapter, and he's here this evening, and I'm thrilled. And I'm going to spare all the platitudes and accolades, other than to say he summed up his career beautifully in his LinkedIn profile. And I'm going to quote, "I started my career in private equity because I wanted to learn how businesses worked. I then moved into the world of running consumer goods businesses because I wanted to learn how to apply the knowledge to the real world. I started a legal and consulting firm because I wanted to help others experience growth while I learned how to operate a services business. I started Terras Kitchen because I wanted to grow a business that would allow me to recreate the family dinner experiences I had as a kid with my own family." I don't think anybody could have said it much better than that, other than to say, I'm thrilled to have as our featured fireside chat guest, Michael McDevitt. He started his career as a senior financial analyst with the Blackstone Group, the Blackstone Group being a rather significant venture capital and private equity firm. From there, he went to a company that some of us may know about, Medifast. And he signed on, if I'm not mistaken, as CFO first, and then was promoted to CEO. And during his tenure, they experienced 100% per year, year-over-year earnings growth. They were named the #1 small company in America in 2010. And Michael has his BS in business from James Madison University. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Michael McDevitt.
Thanks for having me.
What I'd like to do is to go back to the beginning. Where were you born? Where are you from?
I was born in North Carolina.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Go Heels!
I was born, my mom and dad are actually here in the audience right now. My mom was a college professor down there in Carolina. My dad was in the Marines, an ex in the Marines, so didn't go join the FBI. So born in Carolina, but then spent the next 5 years bouncing around in a bunch of different cities. While my father was kind of leading his career until he landed in Fairfax, Virginia. And I was lucky enough to stay in that same home from kindergarten all the way through high school.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Until you went to college at James Madison,
I
right?
haven't stayed still since. So, I went to college at James Madison University back in 1996. 4 years at JMU, of which I studied finance and computer information systems. I left JMU in the year 2000 when the tech bubble was just about to come, and went out to New York City to become a financial analyst for the Blackstone Group. And I spent 2 wonderful years up in New York City learning how to be poor. In a city that is extremely expensive. And then, as luck would have it, I went to my father's retirement dinner from the FBI in 2002. And the fellow that sat next to me was actually a friend of his. They grew up together. They went to Vietnam together. And he had just kind of taken over this company, Medifast, in a proxy fight. He had never run a consumer goods business, nor had I. And sat there for 3 hours at this retirement dinner and just tried to sell me to come to join him at Medifast. I was happy with my seat at Blackstone. I mean, it's the #1 private equity group in the world. You got a seat every day, Four Seasons for lunch if you want to head over that way. It's a very ego-feeding environment. But honestly, as a favor from my mom said, it's your dad's friend. Do him a favor, go to Baltimore and check it out. So that's what I did. I canceled my plane ticket back to New York. I took a train up to Baltimore. I walked into a building that was almost completely empty. It was 40,000 square feet and they had 12 employees at the time. But what I saw was just this enormous potential. They had a business that was selling product to physicians. And that was the mindset, it was a Salesforce mindset. It was 2002, e-com was just kind of coming into play, and it wasn't my idea, just been done a bunch of times ever. I just applied somebody else's idea. I said, hey, you know what? We could sell this product on the internet. We could sell this product directly to the end consumer. So myself and the CEO at the time shook hands, came on board as CFO, and I spent the next 10 years head down, swimming as fast as I could, and had a lot of fun doing it.
You know, you would, let's focus on Blackstone Group, because Blackstone's huge, as you said, the number one firm in the world. You're a senior financial analyst, and when you're talking about a VC PE firm, it really all starts at the financial analyst position. You and others like you are the proverbial gatekeepers. No deal ever gets to above without going through your due diligence. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Tell the community what's involved in that. What were your days like? What did you end up? What did you do?
It was wild. I mean, I remember back the second month I was on the job, and I still have the newspaper in my house. Blackstone was small at the time. I was the 296th employee at Blackstone. And in the year 2000, they took out a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal to say thank you for all their employees. So here I am, month 2 in this new position, and I got my name on the full-page article of the Wall Street Journal. And that was really cool. And it was like, wow, this is something really special. This is something very intimate. The business then went into rapid growth. And the Blackstone that I know from my early days there is no longer anywhere near the Blackstone that it is today. It's a behemoth, it's a juggernaut.
Mm-hmm.
My day consisted of worked a lot of hours. I mean, it was just looking at pitch deck after pitch deck after pitch deck. And then what Blackstone would do, and they did it very well, they would really get to understand what is your core specific skill set that you can do better than anybody else. Mm-hmm. And then that is what they want you to do all the time, every day, in and out. I was really good at financial modeling in Excel. I was really good at kind of predicting future revenue in Excel, and my predictions were coming true on a pretty regular basis. So I found myself for almost 18 months doing exactly that, seeing pitch books, analyzing forecasts, and building a better forecast. It was fun, but it's very repetitive at the time. Mm-hmm. But as you're growing the speed that Blackstone was, that's what you really need to do. You need to find the different clubs in the bag and use those clubs for what they do best. And I was thirsty, I was irking to just do something beyond exactly that trait. I wanted to take that trait and expand it in the real world, as you mentioned in my bio there. I wanted to see how these numbers come out of the world of Excel and become real in real life. And that was just something I wanted to do, and then at this random retirement dinner party, I saw an opportunity to try it out.
In your position as a financial analyst, as you said, thousands upon thousands of pitch decks, thousands upon thousands of spreadsheets and revenue projections, and probably 99.9% of them were all hockey sticks, if I'm not mistaken.
Very common to see that.
Yeah. As you were looking through all of this and you were putting your analysis of these companies together, what are some of the things that you saw time and time again that were either subtle or glaring errors and mistakes that we entrepreneurs, for lack of the detailed education, commonly make that our community can avoid, hopefully?
Sure, that's a loaded question. Some things that I saw and some things that I didn't see. The thing that I would see all too often was people trying to apply themselves based on the metrics of a different company. It's not who they are, it's not what they are, but they'll become, this is what Uber did, this is what Facebook did, and this is how we're going to achieve that exact same thing by following the path that Uber or Facebook did. They would learn Uber or Facebook's algorithm, or they'd learn Uber or Facebook's kind of game plan or the playbook, and they would apply that to them. And they would expect to see similar results. And something that I've learned over and over and over again is you can't take somebody else's success, somebody else's path, and apply it to you. You really can only find a way to extract what's applicable of what their life is and what their experience was that overlaps yours, and is going to somehow be able to influence what yours is. But all too often, seeing this is what this person did, this is how I'm going to execute on that, it was broken. You needed to see some form of individualism. You needed to see some form of customization to the algorithm, customization to the metrics that made it theirs. And whether it was going to happen or not wasn't so important. The fact that they took that effort to make it theirs gave me the trust in their mindset that they're not going to just copy, Control-C, Control-V, and try to step on the gas.
Being a finance expert, let me ask you this: how many of the financial projections and the pitch decks that you saw carried the proverbial top-down approach? If we only get but 1% of a multi-billion-dollar market.
Oh man, yeah. As soon as you start to see that process of here's the number of people, here's the number of users, here's the lifetime value, and just apply that and run. It's something they must teach in business school because everyone goes through with it, but it is definitely a turnoff in a very, very quick manner. It's got to have some form of personalization in what it is you're talking about, and not just be this simplistic math form. Something else you wouldn't see a lot in pitch decks that was frustrating. Pitch decks often focus so much on the product and the forecast, and they don't go into the depth they really need to go into about the people, of who they are, what their expertise are, and even more importantly, how that team works together in an integrated fashion that's going to make those things on the paper really come to life. But when they went deep into the people, I loved that. And that got them so much more attention because they stood out in a world that was very, very product-oriented.
Okay. Are there other insights, lessons that you learned or takeaways from your time at the Blackstone Group that might be valuable to our community?
I think so, man. Really, what Blackstone did for me was it honed in on one specific tool. It did that from a skill set perspective. I learned one tool very effectively. I knew that wasn't going to be the tool that was going to allow me to excel in life. But I think what it even did that was more valuable, it showed me that I wasn't all in to this career. And I knew ever since I went to an interview for a business prior to Blackstone, and it was for a quant fund. And I always had this dream I wanted to be a trader. I wanted to be a stockbroker or trader. And I went to this quant fund, and I have never been more humbled in my entire life. Thinking I'm pretty good with numbers, talking to these individuals that could run circles around me with numbers. And I knew the only way they could ever reach that perspective of how good they were with math was they were all in. This is what they focused on, this is what they love, this is what they do. When I was at Blackstone and you're counting clocks and this is not it, that's what Blackstone really did for me. It confirmed this is a path I don't want to go down. I don't know what my right path is, but I know the longer I stick on this path, I'm not on mine. So, ironically, the best thing that Blackstone did for me, besides the resume name, was it convinced me that I had to make a move into something different.
Now, I remember back in October, one of the things that you said that really stuck out to me, the kind of shift from Blackstone to Medifast. And you said that, I think it was your first day, or one of your first days at Medifast, you walked in, and it was a team meeting with either your entire staff or your marketing staff, if I remember correctly. And you walked in and basically you sat down and said, you know, I've never been a CEO. I'm not sure what we're going to do, but together we're going to figure it out. Do you remember that?
I wish it was that well put. It's so true. I mean, I'm 24 years old and I got thrown into this fire to be a CEO of an organization. Everyone reporting to me is more than twice my age. And I counted that as one of the inflection points in my life where whether it was by luck or by skill or just by the grace of what's above us, I made a decision that I could either come in here and try to impress people by what I know, coming from Wall Street, coming from New York City, and wow them in what they didn't know, or I could be completely humble and say, I don't know what we're supposed to do, but together as a team, we can figure it out. And that's the path we took. The question was asked me, what are we going to do, X, Y, Z? And my first response ever as CEO of Medifast was, I have no idea. And the fact that the group around that table had the trust in me to not just get up and run out the door, because here's this unexperienced CEO who doesn't have any idea, they looked at it as an opportunity that they're going to get their teeth in this. They're going to really have an opportunity to make a difference themselves. So that was a huge inflection point for me. And yeah, it's my naivety is I think what really allowed me to have an opportunity to succeed at that.
Now, Medifast just so happens to be an Owensville-based company, or it was at the time, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so local success story. Okay, so you get into Medifast, and how long did it take you and your team to formulate the plan that you ultimately put in place to achieve the kind of growth that you did?
Well, every year we put together a plan, and every year that plan was completely wrong. And every year we had to find a way to be faster at understanding what was wrong about our plan and how we're going to adjust to get the outcomes we were looking for, even though it's not going to be done with what we thought was how we're going to do it. So there's a saying that someone taught me a long time ago: when you're in the jungle and the map doesn't match the terrain's right. And that was true with us every day. There was outside factors that would impact us. There was team members that just weren't along for the ride that the company was on for, you have to turn over on. There's always so many different distractions that are going to either be in your control or out of your control. You really just got to kind of hunker down, get the right people, and only try to focus on what it is you can control at that given time that has the most impact to get you where you're trying to go. Clear goal for the end of the year. That was something we hit on every year. We always hit or exceeded our goals. How we got to those goals, every year was wrong. Every year was taking just a lot of initiative to try to reinvent.
Would it be fair to say that you did a lot of pivoting?
Pivoting, yeah. When I hear the word pivot nowadays, it's become a big Silicon Valley word in that you totally change your business model. We at Medifast, we stayed true to our North Star.
Okay.
We stayed true to our strategy of growth. We changed our execution plan on a regular basis. We did not, and there was many times when I felt the need to pivot. When I hear these things like processed food is dead, fresh food is coming, and that at Medifast had to be scared for ours. We got to change our entire business model. But understanding that there's always a fit for a certain type of business, that was something that kept us true. So did we pivot? Not so much, but we failed a ton. We learned and we adjusted. We improvised.
Better word, improvisation. Now, was Medifast a public company when you signed on?
It was. I got there, Medifast was on the pinks, meaning it was kicked off all the stock exchanges, and it was trading for 9 cents at that time. So I took all my pay and equity, and I put it all on the table, and I said, let's do this. I mean, I'm all in for this entire process. I was not, in my mind, I didn't consider myself an entrepreneur at that time, because to me, an entrepreneur at that time, from the outside world, I thought you had to own it. It wasn't until I realized that I was not only an entrepreneur, but every employee at Medifast was an entrepreneur at that time, because they put it all on the table to join a company that it was such a big risk. And to me, an entrepreneur is somebody that's all in. I don't care if you own the company. I don't care if you're sweeping the floors of the company. I didn't think I was an entrepreneur at first, and that really, when you look back at it, yeah, we all were. We were all along for this wild ride. And so yeah, we were successful in driving that stock price from 9 cents to $36.
Now, did you stay on the pink sheets, or did you flip to the NYSE or NASDAQ?
It was an evolution.
Okay.
So we were on the pinks, and you couldn't raise money when you're on the pinks. So I took it from the pinks onto the American Stock Exchange. And I always had this desire and this dream, especially in an industry that has a lot of snake oil, to take it onto the New York Stock Exchange. So we then took it onto the New York Stock Exchange, I believe in 2007. That was one of the biggest letdowns ever, to learn that there is no hammer and bell. So that was one of the biggest letdowns of my career by far.
Obviously, being a public company adds levels of complexity to the day-to-day world that those of us that are in privately held companies don't have to work around. Can you give us a sense of the kinds of handcuffs, whether they're golden or wrought iron handcuffs and shackles that you were placed under due to being a public company that we don't have an appreciation for?
Being public, I mean, I joke all the time, I'll never do it again, but then every day I wish I was. Yeah, so I'm very conflicted on this topic. Being public, the biggest word I can say about being public is you are completely transparent and held completely accountable to everything you say and you will do. And the thing that I miss most in my current world of being private and being the owner, I miss that accountability and I miss that threat of the outside world knowing everything about me, that if I don't do what I say I'm gonna do, I don't fail now. I just simply come up with a story and push it back another quarter. Being public caused me to be completely vulnerable, completely transparent, and I wish I could find a way to have the accountability of being public without the legal risk of being public, and your point to the oversight that you have there. So it was quite an intense business time. Every 3 months you put out your exact earnings, not your predictions like in the startup world, but your exact earnings to the world, and you're held accountable. So it was really having that looming over the top of my head every day, of every week, of every year for 10 years. I give a lot of credit for creating that drive inside me. It never let me take a day off. You don't get a vacation when you're public.
Blending with the markets in general, at some level. And one of the things that I see in a lot of business plans, pitch decks, exit strategies. And I'd say 8 out of 10 say one of our strategies is an IPO. From your experience, how many privately held companies did you look at that ultimately went public? And my gut says, what, are we down less than 2%, maybe?
If you're lucky. I mean,
Okay.
2% is probably we select even take to the second round. Of those 2%, how many of those went public? Probably 2% of that 2%.
Okay.
It's very slim. I see that world even tightening more and more now. We live in a world where the tech IPO had a pretty rough year in 2017, the two leaders being Blue Apron and Snapchat. So the ability to get what you deserve out of going public is very difficult right now, but rest assured you're going to get the legal risks associated with it. So markets are a bit dry, so public is something people are looking to do, but it's very difficult and long process, and it's expensive. It's really expensive to be public.
Which I think is a perfect segue into Tandem. Tell us about Tandem. You got to the end game at Medifast. What prompted your leaving Medifast and forming Tandem?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing about Medifast that caused me to leave was twofold. It was a personal thing and it was a work thing. Something that I talked about earlier is my naivety. My naivety to how to run the business really allowed me, I think, to be a terrific CEO because I didn't know. It was about building the team and let the team build the business. Another thing I was naive to was the world of growth, in the world of corporate governance, in the world of politics. I was head down, run as fast as you can. As long as you're growing, the world is going to be just A-okay. Unfortunately, in the world of public companies, that's not exactly how it works. So it reached a point where I found myself waking up every day and I was consumed with politics and corporate governance. And to somebody like me that loves to create, there's no worse thing to be consumed with about process, procedure, politics. So it was at that point where I was kind of checked out mentally in a sense. And at the same time, the fellow that brought me on board there that at Medifast originally, he unfortunately passed away that year. So it felt like a perfect time with my lack of engagement and his exiting the business due to life circumstances to kind of just ride off into the sunset. And it was great because having run 110 miles an hour for 10 years, if I hadn't gone that way, I bet I would have gone by trying to find the next thing to jump into. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure that would have been an absolute disaster because I now have full belief that if you're running that hard for that long, you have to find a way to stop and go down to zero in order to make a real good decision on what it is you want to do next. Otherwise, you're going to let the momentum, what's been carrying you for 10 years, make that decision for you. So I had a desire to just really disappear. And my wife was in med school at the time. She was traveling around different cities. It gave me a great opportunity to not only disappear from the business, disappear from the city. And that's what I did. I just jumped on a plane, flew to New York, lived all over the different place, traveled all around the world for a good year and a half. And I was on a beach in Portugal when I came across a guy that wanted to hang out for the day and told me he was a lawyer, and he told me he owned a law firm. And I told him I have no interest in hanging out with lawyers, I'm on vacation. And he then said to me, like, in Portugal, you don't have to be a lawyer to own a law firm. That's only in America. And I was like, really? I'd never heard that before. So me being me, I dive into the law, and I find that's true. In America, you have to own a law firm, you have to be a lawyer, unless you live in Washington, D.C. This loophole scratched me. It caused an itch that I had to scratch full speed ahead. So I then dove in full speed ahead for the next 3 years, building a law firm, and I might have been a little optimistic. I wanted to change the way that law was practiced. It frustrated me every time I had a lawyer in the room. They were telling me what I can't do. They were unaligned with what I wanted to do as a business and their goal of billing me per hour. So I wanted to own a law firm and bring on lawyers and teach them about small business and culture and align them with the companies that they're representing. So it was an audacious goal. It was a ton of fun. And I give it a lot of credit. It's what then spawned me into what I'm doing at Terras Kitchen now.
Okay. Now, are you still actively involved with Terra? Or are you full bore into Terras?
Yeah, so from 2013 until 2017, I spent my time going wide. I took a much more of a VC approach. I wanted to get involved in a lot of different companies. So I became a board member, an advisor, an investor. Tandem became the general counsel for all these different companies. And when we were your GC, you got me as well. It was free of charge. I didn't charge. I was into this company. I wanted to understand it. Now 2017 is here, and I'm working to really reverse that and get into the more of the focus side. Take it from a VC mindset to that much more of a CEO mindset. So I've spent the past couple months really focusing on how I can have my entities that I'm still an owner in or very deeply involved in, how I shift my focus away from them while not abandoning them, and allow me to put 100% of my focus on Terras Kitchen. It's just something that it fits where I'm at in my life right now. I've got a family, I've got a newborn, I got another baby coming a week from tomorrow. What Terras Kitchen is about fits exactly in where I am in my life. And I want to be able to put everything to it because the opportunity is it's so personal and it's so large. So Tandem is still the general counsel for all the companies I'm involved in. They're still the GC for Terras Kitchen, so you get good legal rates.
If I'm not mistaken, when I was doing my research, and that is the thing that really ticked you off was the fact that no big firms really wanted to deal with you, number one. And number two, if they did want to deal with you, they were going to bill you out at $900 an hour, but they were going to put a junior associate on your case. And that was the model that you wanted to completely disrupt.
It was so broken. I mean, in the sense, when you're a young startup business, I can't think of a company that needs stronger legal representation than a young startup because you're building your foundation, and all too often the foundation is built on a copy and paste article out of LegalZoom or something along those lines. You need the best minds to ensure you're building it right, but you don't have any money. And the people that have those big legal minds, they're charging $900 an hour to service Coca-Cola and US Air. They're never going to get on your account. So what I did is I went out to these big law firms, the best law firms in the country, and I recruited these senior experienced attorneys and really got them excited about getting back into what matters most to them. Not so much focused on your billable hour, because I'm going to pay you half in equity of the companies you represent. So if you want to make it big, it's not so much going to be about how much you can build, it's going to be about how much your companies grow that you represent. That mindset was something that had never been even talked on in legal, probably due to a difference in violations of ethics. We loved it. And my attorneys became owners in the companies they were representing. And the amount of effort they put towards these companies, the amount of engagement, and the amount of hours they actually billed versus the amount of hours they actually worked, totally flipped-flop. It was pretty exciting to see.
Did you run across a lot of resistance, a lot of pushback from these lawyers, given their career is built around billable hours?
I still do every day.
Okay.
The attorneys, it was so hard to take how they had been trained, because they had been trained to do a very specific thing. You had to break it down, much like when you joined the Marine Corps, down to the core to then build it back up. And that was a very difficult process that I fully admit I failed to even appreciate how hard that was going to be. And that's probably what caused me the most stress and strain in Tandem was just, I thought it was going to be bring on the best attorneys, we can go focus on the business. Wasn't it. I had to spend all my time focused on the attorneys, breaking them down to have them appreciate and understand the culture that we were building. And I definitely underestimated how much time that was.
So, now you're focused on you're focused on Terra's Kitchen.
All T's, it gets tricky.
What's that?
I'll start with T, so it gets tricky.
So walk us through the evolution of Terra's Kitchen.
Terras Kitchen, we're a business, if you're not familiar with, where the whole story of it is, my wife and I found out we were going to become parents. So my mom, who's here, gave me the wonderful motherly advice of, there's no one way to do it, but try to find yourself around the dinner table as often as possible, because that's where really values and families are built. So my wife, she's in the back row as well, the whole family. She's a physician. I'm busy running all these different companies. I got to find a way to get dinner on the table, and I'm not talking picking up McDonald's on the way home. It's not how I eat. I went out there and I found this world of Blue Apron and HelloFresh. This is the year 2015. I had no idea you could ship tomatoes through the mail. Back in Medifast, we were shipping powders and bars. The nuclear war couldn't stop this stuff. But here we are, all of a sudden you can ship tomatoes. So I try all the products. I like them. I don't love them. One, they took way too long to make. It was taking me an hour to make. Maybe my knife skills aren't great. I don't know. But it was taking me an hour to make these meals. It wasn't going to work. Two, the amount of variety they were offering me was also carb heavy, because that's where the least amount of spoilage is inside these foods. They don't fit the way that I eat. I'm a very much health conscious individual, so I couldn't eat the way that I wanted to eat. And three, I'm no hippie, but the amount of trash I was throwing away every Tuesday, recycle day, with Blue Apron was 16 pounds of trash a week. So I said, there's something here, there's something to this, but we got to find a way to make this in a way that's more convenient, more healthy, and more sustainable for the kids that I'm trying to bring into the world. We're going to have a world here at the end of the day. So that's what I sought out to do. I sought out to create a product in this massively growing industry of meal kit and e-com grocery that fit those three needs for me personally. And basically what we found was the year 2016 when we launched, we went from $0 to $20 million in revenue in our first year. So my three issues I had with the product line seemed to really hit on the core of a lot of different consumers. 2017 came, and the industry as a whole, Blue Apron tried to go public. They were going through their go public process. And all of a sudden, the entire industry, which you might relate to, went from a growth-focused industry. Who cares about profitability, right? Just grow, grow, grow. All that changed on its head in January of 2017. So all of a sudden, here we are at Terra's Kitchen, like you just told us to grow. We went from 0 to 20. Now we had to turn the entire business focus and the entire strategy to how to reach profitability. So 2017 was a year about really honing in on what we do best and how to get this business to scalability with sustainability. And now 2018, we're loving where we're at. The industry has really opened back up. There's a lot of people very pro on it. Now we're about to go back into a growth phase, but we're going to do it in a much more efficient business model. The industry going south with Blue Apron was one of the most painful things that happened to me, because it just took away my entire year of 2017 of growth. But it was one of the most powerful things, because profit and growth can hide a wealth of sin. And we were fully going to go into this explosion of media spend and grow, grow, grow with what was a broken infrastructure, a broken business model. So we had to look inward and say, okay, where can we improve ourselves so that when we do this, we do it right? And let's not let growth just kind of hide all the warts that we have as a company. So even though we were looked at from the outside world as doing everything right, we had to go inward and fix everything that we knew was broken that nobody else did. And that was challenging. It was really challenging. But I think huge returns on those investments.
So you and your team went through a process of wart removal, basically. What kinds of warts did you find that you needed to remove? And I'm not asking you to share anything proprietary here, but what were the problems and issues and things that were broken that you just really didn't realize that because you were so focused on that concept of growth?
So ironically, the reason I said that I did so well in Medifast is because I had this mentality of I didn't know, so I listened. This is my third time around. I've been successful before, fully guilty of acting as if I knew and not actually listening to the employees, to the consumer. So we were running Terra's Kitchen on a top-down strategy where I gave the direction and people executed that direction. Realizing that was one of the biggest ahas. Man, I'm breaking my own golden rule of how to run a business. We got to flip this upside down and really go to the source, the employee base, the consumer base, hear what the issues are, and allow them to tell us what to focus on and improve. That is a major cultural shift. It is a major prioritization shift, everything about that was extremely challenging. We're still going through it. It's not a flip the switch and here we are, everyone, we're gonna listen now. So it's a very difficult process, but it's one that I give all the credit in the world. That's what's gonna really make Terras Kitchen something totally different. Another issue is when you change your business strategy, when you change from top down to bottom up, when you change from growth to profitability, you're gonna have to change some people. And whether you can change those people by changing their behaviors, or you have to change those people by changing those people out for new people with new skill sets that you need. When you're a small entity that's really kind of just everyone sweeping the floors and doing it together, that's one of the hardest things for me to do, personally. I look at anybody who shook my hand and came on board into a company that I'm the leader in, I will be so loyal to them to the death. But then you realize you're hurting them because they're the wrong person in the wrong role. You're hurting the company because you're not achieving what you should be achieving. And you're hurting all the other employees that gave you their loyalty to join this company. So taking pulling the reins to make those changes in people, even when you're successful to the outside world and you're still successful in what you're looking to do, that's tough. But it had to be done, and it all worked out. It's working.
Oh, it's working now.
It's working.
Still a work in process.
Always.
You now have a team of how many?
We're 17.
17. Okay, so the model then is you don't produce your own product. Tell us that piece of the business.
Yeah, this is when my Blackstone days came and applied itself very productively into Terras Kitchen. So when I came across this industry, remember this is 2015, over $3 billion had been invested from financial firms into my competitors over a period of 3 years. Everyone thought this was the holy grail of the world. When you've got that much money, as I said, money can hide a wealth of sin. So when I went to go explore and peel back the onion on what my competitors were doing, I saw, when I broke down their business model from an analytics perspective, I saw huge disaster. These people were taking huge amounts of money and building all vertically integrated infrastructure, building 200,000 square, and they were growing, so nobody cared. I looked at that and saw just a disaster waiting to happen. I don't know fresh food. Remember, Medifast was not fresh food. It was great food, it was not fresh food. I don't want to learn fresh food because I look at that as one of the most complicated, risky businesses in the world. So if 99.5% of food today is sold inside grocery stores, and we wanted to then sell food on the internet, e-com, why don't I just go knock on the door of somebody who's best in class, selling it to grocery stores now, and offer them the ability to sell that same food on the internet? And I would be that brand on the internet. So I become an e-com grocery company. And that's what we did. I knocked on the door of somebody who's best in class, has facilities all across the country, has the food in their inventory every day, so I have no inventory risk, and we became their e-com partner. So for no CapEx, we launched on a national platform. Very different than all my competitors who have really spent all their day managing the thousands of employees inside the warehouses. We get to just focus on the customer. And that is such a beautiful thing. With less hands, I'm cool. With less hands, we can focus on more of the hearts of the customers.
And how many team members do you have?
We have 17 now.
17.
And that number, this is a wild number. Currently, I mentioned $20 million run rate. For us to go to, I think we're predicted to $125 million run rate by first quarter next year, we need to add 7 people. Medifast is vertically integrated. And when you got 77% gross margin, you can do vertically integrated. I'm playing on 7% gross margin. The less people, the better. So we're really making sure that the 17 are the best 17. And to go to 24, every new person has got to be an A player on that team. It's a lot harder to find that real core team of A players when you're hiring 1,000 people. So I love the focus of our current business.
Let's dig into that a little bit more. You mentioned in your experience at Blackstone the fact that one of the big things that you hated about so many pitches and presentations was the fact that they spent very little time on telling you about why the team was what they were and why they were composed that way. So now, what do you do to make sure you've got the A players? And what are the things that you look for that you find others either gloss over or don't even bother to consider?
Great question. And the answer right now, it's just a constant evolution. The players have to continuously evolve to meet the business needs of the position that they're in. That's a lot to ask of somebody who's giving you their loyalty, coming in there, going to pound away every day. Ask them to understand the entire business strategy, understand their role in that strategy, and keep investing in themselves to evolve with what it is the business needs are. Because you don't have time as a small startup company to invest full-time HR resources into growing these people. You're really asking them to do it themselves. That's a tough thing to ask of somebody. So that is the biggest lesson I've learned is sometimes I hire people for the position that was right at the time that I hired them, but I fail to ensure that they're the right person as the business changes, as the business evolves. And making sure you're holding yourself accountable, and they should really be holding themselves accountable. They've got the skill sets to do what they need to do in the different areas if this is their expertise. It's more about the effort level, the learning level, the engagement level, whatever that might be. Can it peak and valley at the time you need them to peak and valley instead of inside those areas? And the thing that I now look at that has been just an absolute game changer for me in an employee base. Remember when I was young, I didn't know anything, so I looked to hire. I would often go out and try to hire these celebrity executives, right? This guy did it all for Starbucks, he's gonna do it all here. I mean, growth creates a lot of retrospective geniuses too. You never really know who's the guy who does that.